Hi, everyone, and thank you for listening today. This is Mark with Word of Faith Fellowship, and today I am so excited about this program. I have such a great friend with me, Carlos. He's all the way from Brazil. He is actually a minister in a church in Brazil, and he's here visiting with his family this week. And so I asked him, please come and share your testimony. I have known Carlos for many years. He has come here for years to visit our church, and he comes with his family. And his testimony is amazing. His life is an absolute miracle. I believe you're going to be so blessed to hear the story about this man who found Jesus in the midst of having everything in the world could offer to you in Brazil. And so he is going to share with you. So, Carlos, go ahead.
Thank you, Mark. It's such an honor for me to be here. Such a privilege. I always share in our church. It's such an honor for us to be called the family of God, the people of God. And I want to share my life a little bit with you so you can have help. You can have hope for you because there is hope for whoever cries out to God, whoever wants to know Him truly in his life. He'll find a way to get to your heart like He found a way to get to my heart, to our hearts. We are so happy for that. So I grew up in Brazil. Everybody knows. I think everywhere in the world, they know that Brazil is known as a country of the soccer. So I was very involved with that thing. So I grew up Catholic, going to the church. I had a desire for God in my heart since I was very little. I remember I was like 10 or 11 years old. I used to go to the church by myself, the Catholic church, because I wanted to know about God. I knew there was a God. I knew there was a heaven, a hell. And, my parents would teach me whatever they knew how to teach me about God. And at that time, no one from my house would go to churches. But I went. I remember like taking a public bus, going to a different neighborhood just to go to the church and searching for God, So I have that heart since I was very little. So, but like I said, soccer is a major idol in Brazil. I don't know it's a sport, but it became a very strong idol in that country. So I played all the time. I played in the streets. I played, in a neighborhood, different neighborhoods. People would call me to play for them because I had that talent of playing. They said I was good playing. So my whole life was being built on this thing, thinking about that, doing that, traveling, going to different places. So when I turned 14, I tried to go to this big team in town, Belo Horizonte, where I lived. It's a big city, 3 million people live there. And they have two big teams there. So I went to try to play in one team, and they liked me. I was 14 then. They liked me. So they got me, and I began to play there and train every day and play on the weekends and travel the whole country, even to different countries playing. And we had a very good team at that time. I remember like 15, 16, 17 years old. We had a very good team. We have the Brazilian championship for our age, and we won 3 years in a row this championship. So our team was very good. We played against all the teams around the country, every state, and maybe have 2 or 3 teams, the best. So we won this championship 3 times. So because of that, I was called up for the Brazilian team, the national team for that age. So we went to Ecuador the first year, and we played the South American championship. We won that championship. We had a very good team. It was me and a friend of my team. So we joined the national teams. We trained for like two months in a place, and then we traveled. So next year I was called up again to play the World Cup of this age. So we did very good there. We did not win, but we almost won that championship. And I played very good there. And during that time, a guy from Belgium came to me. He came to the hotel. I was thinking about this yesterday. He came and he invited me if I wanted to play in Europe. So on that during that time, like 30 years ago maybe, and the dream of every player was to play in Europe. They, they made a lot of money there. They were the most famous players were there. So I said, yes, I would like to. I would love to. So we came back to Brazil, and he called me. He called my dad. I was 17 at that time, and they tried to get me there. They sent me money. They bought me a ticket. The guy would call. His wife was a Brazilian. She said, "Well, we will not have problem. We have Brazilian food here, and you can come. You enjoy it." So my dad said, "It's up to you, Carlos. Whatever you feel." And I don't know why, but now I know why I did not go. I just felt, no, well, maybe let's wait. Let's wait maybe 2 or 3 more years. I'm too young. I'm 17, you know. So I did not go. I know it was God, the power of God. I didn't even know. I was not even serving Him at that time the way I should. But no, God spared my life then, because it's a wrong decision there. It would affect my whole life. And God had a hold of me then. So I'm grateful for that. And I stayed. I did not go. I kept playing here. The next year I was called up again for the national team again. We played a World Cup for 19 years old boys, the whole all around the world. We played in Portugal. We did very good there too. We did not win, but we were second there, but did very good too. So the next year I turned 20, and I became professional. So it was around that time that I was really seeking God, because I had everything I wanted, because every boy, every young man in Brazil, our dream is to play soccer, like to be famous, to get money. And I had that. But I wasn't happy. I knew there was a God. I knew there was something missing in my life. I was going to, because one thing I forgot to say, the first time I went to this national team, I met a guy. He's from São Paulo. He used to play in a big team there too. And he used to invite whoever wanted to go to his room at night. And he would read the Bible with us. He would sing, teach us those songs, explain the Bible. He would pray for whoever wanted prayer. So that was a beginning of God drawing me, really for the truth. Drawing me be able to serve Him. So when I came back, I went to a Baptist church. And I began to go to that church. So I was there going to that church. I loved the people there. I loved the pastor, But I wanted more of Jesus, I knew there was sin in my life. My lifestyle was not the way it should be, And the Spirit of God, it bothers you when something is not right in your life. If you want to really serve God, and be holy and walk like Jesus walked here on the earth, if there is something wrong, the Spirit of God is going to bother you on the inside. That's what I felt. There was sin in my life. I could not get rid of it. So I was really crying out during that time, like 19 to 20. I remember going to my bedroom by myself. I didn't know what to do. I began to cry out to God, Jesus, please, I want to know you, Jesus. Please, open a way for me to know you, really know you. I want to know more of you. I read the Bible. The Bible tells us we would have abundant life, but I don't have that abundant life. What is that? What is that, God? Shortly after that, a friend of mine that later on became my wife, she invited me to go to this church in Belo Horizonte. And that's the church where I am still today. Now it's for 30 years now. I was 20 at that time. I went there, so I heard the preaching. I loved it. I heard the prayer, the songs, the praise and worship. That really touched my heart.
How did your wife, at that time you weren't married, how did she hear about that church?
Well, it's an interesting story too. She used to work in a store in the mall in Belo Horizonte, and she was there one day, and she said a group of Americans came into the store. And they bought some clothes. There was a nice store. And she said that she felt something different in them. She said, and they shared with her, about Jesus and everything. She felt so much love Like for 30 or 40 minutes they were in the store. But she said that impacted her life so much. After they left, she went to the upper stairs room and she said she prayed. She said, God, what is that those people have? I want that. I want that. So they invited her to go to this church. So the next week she went there and she loved it. You know,
Yes.
and she called me. She invited me
Yes.
to go. So
Then and that group of Americans was who?
that group was
turned out to be who?
it was a group of people from Word of Faith Fellowship,
Okay.
and they were there for a seminar, and you know after the seminar they went shopping and they went to the store. So that's our first contact she had with the church here. So of course we came to that church. We began to go there, and there was seminars sometimes there, so people from Word of Faith would go there. And sometimes there were seminars here in the United States. I came my first time in '95. She came in '95 too. So that's how we became friends of Mark and several here. I have such a good friends, special friends, here in America. That's why I try to come every year with my children. I have 2 children now, 2 daughters, and they love their friends here. They love to be here, to come. It's such an honor for us to be here. So I went there. I went to that church. It was when I became professional. When I turned 20. I went there, and like I said, I began to really feel God, working in my life truly, because I got prayer. I began to be delivered from those demons, from those sins in my life. So, like Exodus, there's a scripture I wanted to read in Exodus 2:23. The Israelites were crying out, and he says here, however, after a long time, nearly 40 years, the king of Egypt died, and the Israelites were sighing and groaning because of the bondage. They kept crying, and their cry because of slavery ascended to God. So these people here, they were in bondage. They were slaves, and they were crying out to God. But it says here, they kept crying. They did not give up. I did not give up then. When I was crying out to know God, I was praying every day, searching for God somewhere, And he took me to the right place, to the right people. And it says here, and God heard their sighing and their groaning, and earnestly remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God saw the Israelites and took knowledge of them, and concerned himself about them, knowing all, understanding, remembering all. God knows everything we go through. He understands us. Sometimes we don't understand what happens, to us. Many situations, we feel things. We don't know why we go through things, but God knows everything, and He understands what we feel. Right. All He wants is a cry. I cried out then. I had no one there to teach me, but with that cry, God began to send people. Think about that. This friend of mine was in her store. There were several stores in that mall. And there are a lot of malls in Belo. They went to that mall. They went to that store. God took them there because she was crying out. Then I was crying out, and she talked to me. And she shared with me. She was so impressed with them. She just felt something she had never felt with anybody before. Right. It was the love of God,
Yes.
God is so faithful, Mark.
Yes.
So,
and during this time, you said you were professional. Was this your income? Were you getting paid for this?
Yes, very good. And
what was this? I understand you had games you played, but were you spending a lot of time practicing and traveling?
A lot. There was a time in my life I had to choose if I was going to study, like going to college after I finished high school, if I was going to go to college or keep playing, because it takes your life. You train every day in the morning, at the afternoon. You travel every week. So it's really, really busy. It's very intense, because you need to be the best. They want you to be the best. So it's kind of, it's your life. Right. You think about that all the time. You need to, be there, and You need to try to be. It's that competition, that works, that forces you to be better than everybody. That thing that you just, it's a pressure,
Yes.
that
Sure.
situation. So, but like I said, I went to this church and turned 20 and became professional. So when you become professional, you are on TV. They interview you, so you play. They show your game on the TV. So I began to get famous. I used to go in the mall and go shopping, go to the market, and people recognizes you. People know who you are. So that kind of builds a pride system in you. You think you are someone, above others, which you are not. You're just a human being, miserable, that need Jesus so much. So that thing was really built in my life. So, like I said, but I kept seeking God, going to the church. Sometimes I was traveling a lot. I would get tapes. I would ask the pastor if I could have the tapes, take my trip and listen to the preaching.
Yeah.
The services was a blessing. It kept me a lot in the Word of God. So I was trying to, we had a very good team at that time too. We were always in the top of the teams in Brazil. So my future, as far as playing, being professional, was pretty good. In the natural, like all I wanted, I had it. My dad he used to take me to watch those games, the stadium, since I was little. Like 100,000 people watching. Now there's 100,000 people there watching me playing there. So I had everything I wanted. I could have it, but I wasn't happy. There was a void, an empty place inside of me. Only God can fill that up. So I kept crying out to God and seeking God and opening my heart. So like I said, I've met many friends there. I have such a good friends there till today. They are like my family. We're so close down there. Like we are so close here. Like last time I came here was 2 years ago. Now I come, I see Mark. Seems like
Yes.
I see him every day because
I
we're
know.
so
It
close.
does.
It's the
Yes.
spirit.
Yes.
When God joins us in the spirit, we feel close. It doesn't
Right.
matter the distance. I'm in Brazil, they're here in the United States, but we feel so close. Everybody I come here. I love this church. Sam and Jane, they're such a blessed, such loving people. When I met them for the first time in Brazil, when I went there, you feel so loved when you are with them, So much compassion they have for people and to teach us God's ways. So,
Yes.
so I just love this place here in my church in Brazil, So it's a privilege for me to be there. So like I said, but in 1996, I cannot forget that. Because there, in the teams, like every year, you sign up a contract for 1 year. You play for 1 year. When the next year comes, you need to sit down and talk about your salary, how much you're going to get, and sign up another contract. So my contract was going to finish in January 1997, 31st. So it was September 1996, I began to feel that the voice of God really came to me. That was my last year playing.
How old were you?
I was 24 at that time.
24
Yes.
in the soccer down there. What's kind of the age when people are reaching their prime and
Yeah.
success?
When you are like from 25 to 27, that's when you take like the best time of your career, as far as physically and, as playing. So I was getting to this point. And my team knew I was always playing, and they wanted me to stay. But God spoke to me. That was it. So when January 31st came, I went there to the office of my team. It was a big building, nice building, Belo. It's a very rich team. So I talked to the director. I told him. Actually, I talked to my parents before. It was very hard for them to understand, because it did not make sense. You are stopping playing, but you're young. You can play till you are 35 or 36, 33 sometimes. But you still have like at least 10 more years playing. I said, well, but God told me to stop playing. What are you going to do, my dad? As I said, I don't know. I'm going to trust God. Well, I know it was hard for them to understand in the natural my decision, but I knew that God had told me that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So some things I had to go through there. I mean, it wasn't right, you know, all that exaltation of the man, all that pride, all that system. I was stealing my heart from God. I love being with people. I loved being in the church. I love helping people in the church. So I knew that was my call, you know. And I went to talk to the director, and they did not like it at all. They began to offer me money. You know, you're gonna pay you more and more. And I told them, no, it's not because of money. I'm not quitting because of money. You know, it's because the voice of God came to my heart, and it's time to quit. No, I'm gonna do something else. And they were trying to convince me. I spent a pretty good time there on that meeting. And when they saw I was serious about my decision, they said, okay, so please, can you at least talk to the media and explain to them, because we don't know what to tell them. I said, yeah, sure, I'll talk to them. So I got my car, I began to drive to the place where we trained. It's maybe 40 minutes from the office. And I experienced something that I had never experienced before. I began to cry, weep. Was not a cry of sadness. Not that I was sad, I wanted to regret for my decision. No, it was a cry. I could not contain the weepings. I could not even drive. I was trying to drive and try to, you know, do like that. I had to stop my car, and those weepings, so strong. I experienced something so strong on that day. So I felt my church was on the way to the training place. So I felt led to go to the church. I got there. I went to the office and asked, Antonio was there. I asked him, is there a room there so I could go to pray? I need to pray. He said, yeah, there's a room there. So I went there and I cried. You know, I wept on that day. I remember praying and said, Jesus, please, I want to do your will, Jesus. Not my will, but your will for my life, Jesus. Please, I want to know you more, Jesus. I want to serve you with my whole heart, Jesus. Yes. You know, so I stayed there for, 40 minutes to 60 minutes, you know. Then I went home, and I never went back to that place, even to get my stuff. I never went back there till today.
Really?
Yeah, someone took my stuff to my house, and the media did call me. I talked to them. I tried to explain. They did not understand, but I said, well, God spoke to my heart that I'm to do something else, you know. Yeah. So I'm here. I have such a happy life, you know. I have a wife. I have 2 daughters. They're precious, yes, you know. They love Jesus. They love their friends here, their friends in Brazil. We love our pastors there, John and Maria. We love Sam and Jane, all the ministers here, you know. And I wanted to read one more scripture in Hebrews, because Hebrews 11, I'm going to read it for you. It talks about Moses, you know, because Moses, he chose to be what God had for him to be. He had an opportunity to be very rich and very famous, you know, during his life. Right. Being the son of the Pharaoh's daughter, you know. He was like being the son of the daughter of the president of Brazil, of the United States. I know, very rich, very famous, but he chose to be with God's people. It says here in Hebrews 11:24, aroused by faith, Moses, when he had grown to maturity, he become great, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, because he preferred to share the oppression, the suffering, the hardship, and bear the shame of the people of God, rather than to have the fleeting enjoyment of a sinful life. You know, I had everything there when I was playing and was living in the world, you know. I had everything I wanted. I had my car, I have money, I was famous, people would recognize me on the streets, but what about my eternal life? What about Jesus' will? What was his will for me? Yes. That's the most important thing that we learn in our churches that you are going to be happy only when we're doing God's will, when you're happy doing God's will. And I can tell you, I'm a teacher today. I teach PE in a Christian school. I love being there every day with those children. I love what I do. I help in my church. I help my pastor. I preach sometimes. I help with the youth. I help whoever needs help, the older people. I love my life, Mm-hmm. I have a wonderful marriage. I have no strife. My children, they love God. I love going back home after a day work and just being with my family. Money cannot buy that. Mm-hmm. It's for everybody that wants to serve Jesus. Yes. It's such a privilege to live like that, So I wouldn't trade my life for anything, I love my life. I love to do every day what God has for me to do. And it says here, in verse 26, he considered the contempt and abuse and shame borne for the Christ, the Messiah, who was to come to be greater wealth than all the treasures of Egypt, for he looked forward and away for the reward, the recompense. So he was looking for the eternal life. That's what I'm looking for. That's why we all should look for. Yes. God has a wonderful life for whoever wants to serve him. So yes. I love being here. It's a blessing.
Well, we love having you here, and that's such a powerful testimony, Carlos. It's what stands out to me, Carlos, is that what God did in your heart, God can do in anybody's heart. Yes. You had all of the world, all of the fame, all of the money, and when God was convicting your heart, it was so easy for you to turn all of that away and turn your heart to God because you loved him. I was thinking about how much, if we will just simply love Jesus, all of the other things of the world will be easy to say no to. That's right. And you also sing at your church, yes. And I would like you to sing. Yes. I know God put on your heart this song, I'd Rather Have Jesus. Yes. That summarizes your testimony. So if you would actually sing for us now.
Yes.
I'd rather have Jesus than silver or gold. I'd rather be his than have riches untold. I'd rather have Jesus than houses or lands. I'd rather be led by his nail-scarred hands than to be the king of a vast domain, or be held in sin's dread sway. I'd rather have Jesus than anything this world affords today. I'd rather have Jesus than men's applause. I'd rather be faithful to his dear cause. I'd rather have Jesus than worldwide fame. I'd rather be true to his holy name than to be the king of a vast domain, or be held in sin's dread sway. I'd rather have Jesus than anything this world affords today.
We are so grateful today for Carlos being with us and the testimony of God. And I encourage you today, lay it to your heart. If there's things in your heart that are taking the place of God, as that song says that he just sang, that I'd rather have Jesus than riches or fame, I encourage you, ask God to show you what is in your heart that has tried to take that place that only God should have in your heart. And just like Carlos did, he laid it all down, he gave it up, and you can do the same thing. So thank you for listening. We are on this program Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 8:30 to 9. Go to our website. You can watch these. We're all videoing these, and it is wordoffaithfellowship.org. Thank you. Have a great day.